as compared to what we had last time na nabagyo bago nagka-exam. So, sana magkakasabay-sabay, matapos ng maaga yung lahat, and I can actually right away compute for your final grades before you get to start with your last batch for the semester. Ano sa tingin nyo? Ano sa tingin nyo? What would be your proposal? Is it okay to have it on Wednesday by 10 o'clock until maybe 11 or 11:30 by that day? Kasi supposedly na magkaklase tayo, hindi na lang. Or paano ba? What you like to have that one on that day ba? Anybody? Anybody? Para hindi tayo magsasayang ng oras with just this decision making of the exam. The same as your midterms, so we'll be having that one on the LMS, and we'll be having also a coverage of the 6 chapters, no, starting from chapter 7 until chapter 12 that we'll be discussing this morning. Ano sa tingin nyo? What do you think? Anybody? I wish that I have someone to talk to kasi later on we'll be having also this naming that I need your cooperation in terms of your interaction. Um, it's quite unusual for this batch kasi no compared to my other batches. Anybody?
Sir, for me, okay lang.
Okay lang sa'yo, alright? So, you have a confirmation na okay lang sa kanya sa Wednesday by that day. That would be a day earlier than the supposedly scheduled one. Anybody?
Okay lang
Anyway,
din sa akin, sir.
okay lang din sa'yo. Anyway, do you have classes by that day? Aside from me? May klase ba kayo ba that day? Wednesday na nakaschedule?
Sir, wala naman.
Wala. So, if wala, then maybe if you could consider my proposal that I'll be having that one on November 3. Para siguro November 3 na -1 na, we'll be having another exam on November 4 which is -1 na. I don't know if how many subjects are you handling right now? How many subjects do you have for your second batch ba?
Sir, 3 po.
3. So, tamang-tama, no? If I get to schedule that one a day earlier, then you have a -1 by the exam day already. And maybe by that day, kung matapos nyo yung exam, then maybe habol nyo naman last activities nyo. Then maybe a week after that one, I'll be releasing again your final grades. So in that case, medyo maka-prepare tayo, and you can have a longer siguro a longer vacation before you get to start once again on a second batch. I think the second batch will be starting by November 8th. November 8 ata. Alright. So, paano? So, we have 2 confirmations na okay lang sa kanila yung Wednesday. How about for the others? Kumusta? Paano ba? Ano yung proposal nyo for... Excuse me. Wala, ayaw gumana ng video ko ng cam ko. Anyway, meron ba? Camera failed naman daw sabi. Any other confirmation? Suggestions maybe? In this way that you may be able to be part of the part ng decision making. Sige, siguro para ko tayo kasi medyo we're wasting time for this one na wala namang nag-interact. Anyway, so we have 17 here in this class. I hope that will not be passive. This will be the last day for us to be able to talk about this one. So I hope na sana we'll be spending more time having this interaction, and at the same time yung proposal ko na sana it's quite this one it's quite ganito ka-passive since the day one, and sana last day ko hindi tayo and at the same time siguro gusto kong makita yung mga mukha nyo later on, kasi in this way no, kahit virtually tayong nagkikita, at least I get to maybe be able to see you in the future in that case. Kung magdadaanan naman tayo sa sa highway or whatever. Alright, so sige, let's start first with the lesson. Maybe we'll be balikan natin yung schedule of the exam next time. So, may I hear the voices of these different students who are here? Are you there, Mr. Tovera? Mr. Aludos, thank you for opening your mic. Sino ba? You may close it now. Miss Tundagi, are you there?
Sir. Yes,
Alright, thank
sir.
you. Miss D1, are you there? Meron pang mag-join. Break. Alright, thank you. Medyo body sound yung kon mo. Sana may boses na maririnig or choppy lang siguro. Alright, Mr. Valdez, are you there? You may now... You may now mute yourself. Yes, D1. Alright, thank you. Mr. Kosalan, are you there? Are you there, Mr. Kosalan? Mr. Yubos? Mr. Wakbin? Alright, thank you. Miss Abellera? Miss Apasan? Mr. Kuilan? Miss Libiado? Are you there?
Yes, sir.
Alright, thank you very much for responding. Alright, as usual, the maximum student that we had last time from the first day was only 18 out of the 40 plus students that are expected to join here this morning. Alright, so we'll be your cooperation is greatly appreciated. If you get to cooperate with this one, then mas mabilis tayong matatapos with this discussion. Alright, so once again, we'll be having the chapter 11 and chapter 12 by this day, and no, with all those organic compounds that we have discussed, no, today will be about your amines and your neurotransmitters. All right, so I don't know if you have encountered these words before. We have amines and neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters are really very important of trying to know is because these are actually parts of your body. You know, these are actually your mga signals in your body that will allow it to communicate with other organs, your heart, no? Your brain is being controlled by your heart. However, your heart also supplies blood to your brain which nourishes it. So merong mga ganun, no? They transmit neurons and signals, no, that actually communicate between each other. So, for example, pag nagutom ka, it gives your stomach feels it and it gives a sense of neurotransmitter to your brain telling yourself that you are hungry and you need to eat. Mga ganong mga bagay. Alright, so let's get to talk about your amines. Your amines is really very interesting is because this is something related to your profession right now, and this is actually the one that is being advertised by the administration, the government administration today. Since no the government of President Duterte, amines is related to that regime in terms of being related to your profession also as future law enforcers. All right, so when you talk about your amines, no, this is actually also parehas ng mga iba. Like for example, if you have your alcohol, no, malalaman mo na alcohol siya kasi meron siyang OH or your hydronium ions. However, if you're going to look at your amines, no, it actually contains what you call your NH3. And dito sa baba, makikita natin yung it has nitrogen and 3 atoms of your hydrogen and NH3. This NH3 is being named as your ammonia. Have you ever heard of ammonia before? Or have you ever even smelled ammonia before? Na-try nyo na ba? Ammonia. Or meron kayong idea ba kung saan ginagamit ang ammonia? Anybody? Yes or no? Kung meron man kayo experience, then share to us your experience about it. If no, then we'll explain that one to you. Anybody? Meron ba? It's kind of weird to have this awkward silence. Uh, Alright, I'm just waiting for somebody to speak out. Pero, I don't know eh. It is a clamor of the students that they get to not learn anything from the online class. To which at some point, and even teachers are actually also not having the satisfaction of teaching online. However, in this case that we'll be having, and we're trying we're trying to find ways and actually trying to at least able to learn from something. It's quite hard for us teachers. I don't like to demand speaking. Trying to trying to demand people to speak up is because college na kayo eh. At some point, you have already spent one third of your life having classes, but I don't know. Hindi ko alam. Uh, kung yun yung clamor nyo na wala kang natutunan sa online class, then so be it. Siguro, if ganito lang naman yung setup natin. Because I don't want this one to happen in your next batches. I may not even require you to join, pero sana kahit man lang a day to spend, and even as I've mentioned, I was emphasizing this one as your last day. Wala pa rin pala. So what will I expect from you in the future? When I'm trying to find ways for you to be able to help yourselves, pero you don't like to help, ayaw nyo patulong yung sarili nyo. So in this case, if wala man lang na if there are none, I think we'll be interacting with this one, then maybe it's a high time for you to be able to just read this one eh. Siguro, I'll be sending to you yung ako na lang. Yung tawag nito. The PowerPoint. Kayo na bahala. Siguro we'll be discussing na lang about the schedule of the exam, if that would be okay with you. So proposal is by Wednesday, and that's supposed to be by that day, 10 o'clock until siguro maybe 11:30. Meron tayong dalawang positive na nag-respond. I don't know if meron pa rin bang magre-respond pa rin with that proposal, then I'll take that one as a yes. Oh, what would be your decision?
Sir, tuloy po yung discussion, sir.
Hindi, sige, you answer first my question. Wednesday, 10 to 11:30.
Next week po, sir.
Next week, it's already next week. That would be your last week for your tawag nito. Last week for your batch 2. Next week, yes, last week for your batch 2. The week after that one will be start of your tawag nito. The start of your third batch, which is the last batch for the semester. You'll be finishing that one by December, and another set of enrollment by January for your second semester. So ganun kabilis lang 'yan. So I don't know if paano yung setup natin. I was proposing that maybe we can have that one on an earlier day, Wednesday, kasi we are as fast as we had this one for the batch. I think nagkamali ako in terms of the scheduling set on your course guide. So paano natin to? Paano natin gagawin ito? Next week will be the release of your other sets of your learning modules for your third batch. So ganun siya. Next week, siguro maybe you'll be claiming that one at the same time taking the exam. So I don't know. Maybe your other teachers will be setting that one by that day, by those days. Hindi ko alam rin. So how do we go about this? What will be your decision?
Wednesday na lang, sir.
Okay, we can have that one on Wednesday. We have already 3 who confirmed this one. I don't know with the others here, or actually 21 tayo dito, pero tatatlo pa lang na tatatlo pa lang yung nag yes or nag no. So I don't know with this decision with these others. Madali lang namang magsabi ng yes or no. Yung decision
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Sa
sir, by
Wednesday na lang po, sir.
Wednesday.
Yes, sir.
How about the others?
Sir, tanong lang hanggang ba sa hapon yung exam?
Hanggang sa? Alright,
Hapon, sir?
as much as possible, I want to have that one as magsasabay sana. Hindi natin nasunod yung last time na nagkasabay-sabay is because we are affected by the typhoon and some others were having no electricity days after what happened to the typhoon. So I actually gave the students for the midterms their chance to be able to take the exam anytime they want. Which is actually not good, to be honest, in the sa side namin as teachers, is because it will be open for the leakage, if you know about leakage. The tendency is that somebody will be taking that one in advance, and the rest who will be having that one on a later day or later hour will be asking something from the exam that may possibly be affect your scores, or maybe yun na nga, no, for those people who are actually asking from the ones who took that one and mas earlier, medyo mas malulugi yung mga nag-take ng earlier kasi syempre presko silang kinuha nun. Tapos yung mga nasa huli, tatanong sila sa iyo, tapos yung ending yung score nila mas mataas pa sa iyo. And later on, you'll be having this regret na yun. Bakit ako pa yung source ng information, ako pa yung mas mababa yung score. So I don't know. Even I myself, I only compute whatever that is that you're giving me. So ganon yung mga dating natin. So I don't know. So Wednesday, preferably that would be 10 to 11, just like instead of us having the exam, we'll be instead of us having the discussion by that day, having the exam na lang. And at least at this point, we have 20 students na pwedeng magkasabay-sabay na mag-take by that day. Maybe just, I don't know, maybe just sacrifice the 1 hour and 30 minutes by that time na schedule din naman talaga nating magklase by that Wednesday. If that would be okay, siguro. For the others, we'll be having siguro mga valid reasons for that one, then I may consider. Pero as much as possible, mas gusto ko na dapat sana sabay-sabay. Ano kaya? What do you think? Paano natin i-decision ito? So far wala pa namang kwan. There is just this one, hindi ko maalala kung sino nagsalita kanina about having that one extended until in the afternoon. In that case, just PM me, send me a message of your reason. If I see that maybe it's a valid reason, then yes. Ang tendency ko kasi din, bakit gusto kong sabay-sabay, kasi by that time that I'm giving you that exam, if ever gusto mong i-retake yun, you're only allowed to retake it within that time. So from 10 to 11:30, natapos mo siya ng 11, tapos medyo meron kang na-skip or what, tapos nagka-problema ka sa connection, then you still have 30 more minutes for you to have the retake. Ganon sana. Kasi minsan, naabuso yung retake eh. Naabuso yung retake. Paano natin pa to?
Sorry lang.
Yes, sige, go ahead.
Ilang item, sir?
It will be, I think, 80 points, all in all, 80 points. Pero, I think the 3 items, I think, will be naming. So, maybe a photo you'll be seeing a photo that you are to name. So, 80 points siya, pero hindi siya 80 items. Kasi yung tatlong item doon, that would equate for a 5 points. So, sabihin natin, that would be around 60 items, 70 items maybe, 60 siguro. Mix of your multiple choice and your multiple choice and your naming. Yun lang naman, just same as your paano tumakbo yung last time ng midterms nyo is almost the same as your finals. It's just from your chapter 7 to your chapter 12. This will be sana your chapter 11 will be the last naming. The chapter 12 will be quite a long lesson that will be not about naming anymore. Pero mas makarelate kayo dun sa chapter 12. So yun. So I think siguro it will be decided na I will be posting that one already in the group chat about 10 to 11:30 by Wednesday, which is supposed to be our time for a discussion, but instead we'll be having your exam. Ganun na lang siguro. Just sacrifice the 1 hour and 30 minutes for that day siguro. Then the rest of the days, you may have that one for your fun siguro. Other stuff or maybe other for your work if you are working. Ano kaya? Okay ba?
Okay na po, sir.
Okay. Okay lang ba?
Okay na, sir.
So sige, I will be open. Just PM me if you have special concerns about the scheduling. Alright, anyway, so we have this one, your amines, no? Your amines actually, yung magpapakilala sa kanya is not your OH because that is given for your alcohol. The double bond, something that we had discussed last time, is actually also something that will tell you that it's a certain organic compound. But for your amines kasi, your amines is actually just be reminded of the word nitrogen when you talk about your amines. It has an NH3, which is actually also, examples of this one are what you call your trimethylamine, your nicotine. If you can still remember, saan natin pwedeng makuha yung nicotine na ito?
Tabako, sir.
Tabako, alright, no? Sa tabako. Especially if na-try mong magtabako, siguro out of curiosity, no? If you get to see, alam niyo yung filter? Alam niyo yung filter ng sigarilyo? Diba, meron yung parang
Yes,
filter,
sir.
yung upos. Diba, pag malapit mo nang matapos yung upos na yon, do you see the black one in the middle of that cigarette butt? That's actually your nicotine. Alright? Cocaine. Are you familiar with cocaine? Familiar ba kayo ng cocaine?
Sir, narinig lang.
Narinig lang. Pero, like, looking at movies, paano ba to tinitake tong cocaine? Anong yung nakikita nyo? Paano ba? Cocaine, I think, yun ba yung sinisinghot sa ilong? Yun ba yun? No? Parang yun ata. I'm not sure. I never took drugs, no? Any drugs before. I mean, I never took prohibited illegal drugs before. So, wala akong idea about this one. Right? I hope that you never did too. Alright. When you talk about your amines, it's also related to certain mga kilala nating mga drugs that are actually being administered to us but regulated sila sa hospital. Hindi mo siya pwedeng bilhin sa labas. Hindi mo siya pwedeng bilhin ng walang reseta. When you talk about your amines, these are your nitrogenous bases that are actually related to your amino acids. Sino bang nag-gym dito? Anybody who are going to the gym here? Sinong nag-gym dyan? Quads gym, flex gym, ano doon? Yung team ng lakay na gym dyan sa KM4. Meron bang nag-gym sa atin dito? Have you ever heard of like people who goes to the gym and nagpapasaksak ng amino acid? Para saan kaya yung amino acid?
Pampalaki ng muscle, sir.
Alright, pampalaki ng muscle. When you talk about your amino acid, these are actually also related to your muscle is because, no, your amino acid is related to your protein. Ang pinaka-basic unit ng protein is actually your amino acid. Yung protein natin, muscles natin, skin natin, hair natin, protein. Yung dugo natin, may konting protein yan. Alright? And a certain vitamin also, aside from your amino acid, would be your vitamin B1. Actually, when you talk about your vitamins, these are actually what you, meron tayong vitamin A, meron tayong vitamin B complex, meaning complex siya kasi maraming types of your vitamin B. Meron tayong vitamin B1, vitamin B2, meron tayong vitamin B12. Alright? Tatlo sila, kaya complex ang tawag natin sila kung hindi natin masabi yung number. Alright? Meron tayong vitamin C, meron tayong vitamin D, meron tayong vitamin E, meron tayong vitamin K. Alright, so these are some few vitamins that actually available sa atin. However, when you talk about your amines, it's also related to what you call this one, your morphine and your pethidine. Ang makikita nyo dito sa picture nyo are actually examples of your morphine and your pethidine. Any ideas saan ginagamit ang morphine? Narinig na ba yung word na morphine? Movies, I think siguro, narinig nyo na ba to? Anybody? Morphine. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Sabi nila.
Hindi pa, sir.
Wala pa.
Painkiller.
Alright, very good.
Painkillers.
No? Very good. Meron tayong mga different levels of your pain, no? Pag mild lang, kaya niyan ng ibuprofen, mefenamic acid, paracetamol, kaya yan, no? Na magtanggal nung ating mild na headache. But sometimes if you encounter very severe headache, severe pain in your body, hindi nakakayanin yan ng mga low level na mga painkillers natin. And you get to see that in the hospitals, no, they have na what you call your morphine na nilalagay ito, minimix doon sa dextrose nyo. And for you to be able to at least relieve the pain. Pero, your morphine, no, in the United States is being subjected for abuse is because nakaka-addict to actually. Some others are experiencing what you call your long-term pain in their body, na long-term hanggang tumanda sila nandyan yung pain. And they are very dependent on these types of your mga painkillers because, again, syempre, sino naman ba ang may gustong masaktan? Wala, no? So, you need this painkiller. And at the same time, ang pinakamahirap lang dito sa morphine and your pethidine is actually nakaka-high ito. Masobrahan ka naman ng pag-administer sa sarili mo ng painkiller na to, mahahay ka. No? So, kaya kailangan itong i-regulate, hindi ito basta-bastang nabibili. Let's continue. When talk about your amines, they're actually what you call yung mga primary, secondary, and tertiary. No? Hindi naman siya masyadong very emphasize sa naming natin. But the point is that all you have to do is be able to see the presence of a letter N or your nitrogen. You have your letter N here, this being surrounded by your hydrogen and hydrogen here. You have your secondary amine here, which is your N there, being surrounded by a hydrogen on top and another functional group at the bottom, which is your R prime. Or, you have your tertiary amine, may nitrogen dyan, meron tayong prime 1 ng tawag dito functional group, and you have your prime 2 of your functional group. Hindi naman masyadong very important ito in terms of your naming. This is just for the structure. Alright, let's continue. So, this is a question that I need your maybe your opinion. Walang tama or walang wrong answer dito, pero baka alam nyo ito. What amine is so popular, however, also prohibited at the same time? Popular ito na naririnig natin sa Pilipinas. Actually, we're trying to eradicate this type of your amine is because this is prohibited. Usually, ito yung cause ng mga nakakagawa ng mga ang tawag nito, hindi magandang gawain ng mga tao to the point that they become criminals. What do you think is this one? Any idea? A certain type of amine na prohibited siya. Na ito yung gustong i-eradicate ng Duterte government. Anybody? May picture ba ako dito? Alright. So nakita niyo yun, alam niyo na. Anybody? Alright, may nag-join pa.
Illegal drugs,
yes,
sir.
illegal drug siya, tama yun. Merong nag-message. Yes, it's an illegal drug, tama. Pero, what's a specific illegal drug na amine siya? Amine, no? Example siya ng amine, pero, yun na nga, illegal siya. Pero, sikat ito eh.
Shabu.
Alright,
Shabu, sir.
Shabu. Alright, shabu.
Shabuhay.
So, tama yun, shabuhay mo. Alright? So, yes, no? Meron tayong sinasabi nating shabu, no? At this is really very popular here in the Philippines because commonly, ito yung tinitake ng mga criminal. And someday, you'll be law enforcers and you should know more about this type of an illegal drug. But at some point, no, that is the plus of the government, the latest government, the current government that we have here is because of what they say, the war on drugs. At least, though it's not a perfect implementation of that, pero it brought us back the confidence of us, maybe siguro at least at some point nakakalakad tayo ng safe sa daan, no? Not like dati na parang ginagawa daw tong candy lang ng mga tao. Right? Have you ever seen this one in real life? Nakakita kayo ba ng ganito sa physically, itong shabu na ito? Have you ever seen one? Or walang gustong mag-amin? I have seen one with this one, no? Some of my friends, I don't know kung nagbago na sila, pero some of my friends are actually taking this one, pero I never took this one. Nakakita lang ako, no? Ay, sa liit pala ng mga ganitong pouch lang, mahal-mahal pala nito, no? And I don't know how this one is being used, pero shabu ang isang pinaka-popular na, na droga dito sa Pilipinas, no? Marami pa namang mga other illegal drugs like your heroin, your cocaine, your LSD, marijuana. Ito, ang dami nitong nagtatanim minsan. Kaya minsan nakakakon sa mga farmers kung ano ba talaga. But yeah, the point is that we have this shabu. So how is this related to your amin? Anybody who has an idea of the chemical name of shabu? Street name kasi ang shabu eh. Any idea kung meron kayo, paano siya related sa lesson natin na amin, na bakit ginawa ko siyang example? No? So malalaman nyo yan kung alam nyo yung chemical name ng shabu. Anybody? Baka meron na nag-google dyan. Sige, share to us what you have googled. Ano kaya yung chemical name ng shabu na yan that's related to your amin? Meron na nakahanap.
Methyl, sir.
Methyl? Hindi naman methyl. Methyl is an alkyl group that's never cannot be able to stand alone.
Ammonium salt, sir.
Ammonium salt? No, hindi. Wag naman ammonium salt. The one that I've questioned you this morning about ano yung gamit ng ammonium or ammonia or ammonium salt is actually ginagamit natin yung pinapasinghot sa mga taong nawalan ng malay. You get this ammonia,
Okay.
ilagay mo sa cotton, tapos ipapasimhot mo sa nawalan ng malay sa ilong niya because it has a very strong scent, magigising yung nawalan ng malay. Pero related to the shabu, it's not ammonium salt, it's not methyl, pero yung methyl na yun, malapit na dun. Dapat meron ka lang na i-extend doon sa pangalan niya para lumabas yung pangalan na amin. Kasi amin naman ang lesson natin. Anybody has an idea? Nakahanap na kung ano yung chemical name ng shabu?
Phenylpropan, sir.
Hindi, no? Sige, guess more. It's okay.
Methamphetamine.
You have, no? Alright, so yan na, nakakuha. Ano? We have now what you call your methamphetamine. Alright, however, hindi siya kompleto. Ano? The complete name of your shabu is your methamphetamine chloride. Makikita mo sa dulo ng word na methamphetamine na merong word doon na amine. It's because it's related to your amine and yun na nga, no? When you talk about your organic compounds, then we get to say that si shabu pala organic. However, this is a prohibited drug and this is not supposed to be used, no? If you can still remember, meron ba akong question dito? Alright, meron pala. Alright. Shabu, no? Tapos meron tayo, it's related to your lesson about amin. Meron type, for law enforcers in the future, no mga kayo, we have two types of your drugs, no? Your illegal drugs or your prohibited drugs. Do you have any idea of what are the two specific types or kinds of your illegal drugs in terms of their effects? Meron ba? Meron ba kayong idea? Naturo ba yan sa inyo sa maybe in your Humes or senior high or what? Meron tayong dalawa kasing types of drugs. Anybody? you have any idea about these types of drugs? Two types siya ng mga illegal na drugs. Either way, kung ano man sa dalawang yon, still hindi sila, they are not good to be taken in. Any idea? Any guesses? Guess lang. Types of your drugs. Meron kaya? Alright, meron nag-answer doon sa chat. Methamphetamine, tama yun, no? Baka meron kayong may chat din. Gusto niyo i-chat din answer niyo. Two types of your drugs in terms of their effects to your body. Meron kasing drug nagpaparelax. Meron ding drug na para sa taong medyo sobrang na-depress, kailangan nila ng ganito. So, meron tayong two types of your drugs. Alright, now let's not waste time for this one na lang. Anyway, your types of your drug. Actually, we have your two types of your drug. We have what you call your stimulants and your depressants. Meron drugs na nag-stimulate ng isang tao, just like your shabu. Kaya, the point is that this stimulating drugs will stimulate you to become hyperactive to the point that you can become violent. That's the reason why for many people who are actually related to crimes, maybe they at some point they are also drug users. It's because they are stimulated to become violent, they are overactive, they're hyperactive, and that to the point that they become violent in nature. But some people who are also very overactive or hyperactive needs to be also be relaxed, no? Kailangan nilang maging relaxed in their body, no? So there are what you call naman mga drugs na nagpaparelax sa iyo or what you call your depressants. It's because maybe siguro ang dami mo nang iniisip at gusto mo lang na maging relax, and depressants are actually the ones, if nakakita kayo sa mga movie na nakakakita sila ng mga nakaka-dream sila ng mga kulay-kulay, nakaka-dream sila ng mga unicorn na nakikita nila, maybe those are actually depressants that are able to depress themselves and maybe relax. Pero then again, with these two, hindi pa rin sila magandang i-take. Alright, let's continue. Here, no, it says here, methamphetamine or your shabu stimulates release of the excessive amount of your neurotransmitter dopamine. Meron tayong dopamine sa body natin. No, these are actually also known neurotransmitters in your body that is concerned with your pleasure regulation. Pag marami tayong dopamine sa body natin, this is what they call your happy hormones. This is what makes you happy. This is what makes you euphoric. This is what makes you positive about your body. Kaya minsan merong mga tao na kahit walang alam, very confident sila sa sarili nila is because they have too much dopamine in your body. And aside from that, if you'd like to have a very excessive amount of your dopamine in your body, then actually this is being done by stimulants just like your shabu. No? Upon entering the nerve cell, the meth stimulates in the release of dopamine, which binds your special receptors of other nerve cells, creating the typical rush. This rush will result to, let's say, they say violence, mga ganong mga bagay. Kaya yun, no, sinasabi nila yung mga halos mga criminal natin dati, mga durugista. Alright? Let's continue. Let's just relate your previous knowledge in terms of trying to name your amines this time. Again, it's just the same with your previous lesson about alkanes, no? Pero i-relate natin siya, nalalagyan natin ng amine sa dulo. Alright? So, kung ilan man yon, ilang carbon meron sa longest chain, lalagyan mo lang ng amine sa dulo, yun na yung pangalan niya. Alright? I hope that I get to have your cooperation. I have your interaction with this one. Let's have this example here on the left. Alright, if you can still remember, how many sides do you have here in this shape? Ilang sides ito meron? Anybody? Naming na to, ito yung pinaka-last.
6, sir.
Alright, we have your 6, no? These are 6 sides, 1, 2, 3, 4. So, if 6 sides ito, ano yung posibleng pangalan niya? Na having like 6 carbons there, ano yung posibleng pangalan niya pag pinangalan natin yan sa alkane?
Hexane, sir.
Alright, hexane,
Hexane.
tama yun. So, hexane kasi 6, di ba? But the point is that this one is in a cycle, no? Nakakonect sila lahat, hindi siya straight line na yung usual natin nagagawa. So, ano yung pwede pa nating ilagay sa harap ng hexane para malagyan natin ng apelido dito?
Cyclo, sir.
Alright, tama. So, we have near cyclo. And sabi ko nga, no, the presence of your NH2 there, NH3, depende kung nakabind siya, magma-1 yung hydrogen mo dyan. So, sabi ko nga, lagyan mo lang ng amine sa last. Sabi nyo, cyclohexane ito. So, lagyan mo ng amine sa last. Paano kaya natin papangalanin to? Just put
Cyclohexylamine.
Alright, very good. No? We have now your cyclohexanamine. Alright, tatanggalin mo yung E sa dulo ng hexane, then add your amine. So, we have now this one here. The first example will be your cyclohexanamine. Alright? Going back, again, having this previous knowledge with us here, meron tayo dyan, punta naman tayo dito sa kabilang example. So, again, how many sides does this shape have? How many sides?
6, sir.
6, no? The same with this one, no? This is what you call your cyclohexane din, no? Cyclohexane. Meron tayong yung NH2 dyan, which tells us that this is amine, no? However, you get to see that there are two branching out of this certain alkyl group here. If you can still remember, what is the name of this alkyl group? Yung CH3.
Methyl, sir.
Alright, very good. Methyl. Pero ilang methyl tayo meron?
2, sir.
Meron tayong dalawa. So, alam nyo na yung ilalagay natin sa unahan ng methyl pag dalawa sila. Ano yung ilalagay natin?
Di, sir.
Alright, very good. No? We have your dimethyl. So, meron na tayong idea na this is your cyclohexane, this is your dimethyl, and meron tayong amine kasi merong NH2 dyan. But the point this time is that we need to count the number kung saan banda sila magsa-start yung counting natin. No? We have here. So, the point is that whenever you start counting, no, the number of the carbon, we start it with where the NH2 is connected. In this case kasi nakakuan ito, naka-cycle ito, consider this one as your carbon 1. Alright? Carbon 1 kasi dito naka-connect si NH2. So this is carbon 1, carbon 2, carbon 3, carbon 4, carbon 5, carbon 6. Pwede din naman tayong sabihin na this is carbon 1, carbon 2, carbon 3, carbon 4. Alam natin that this 2 dimethyl here is connected to what carbon number again?
4, sir.
4. Alright? Tama yun. So, alam natin na connected si methyl doon sa carbon 4. So, how do we start with the naming of this one? Anong pwede nating i-name dito? Alam natin na carbon 4 siya connected. Yung methyl natin.
4-dimethyl.
Alright, very good. 4-dimethyl, pero makikita mo kasi dalawa yung methyl natin. So, kulang yung 4 mo. Ano kaya pa pwede natin idagdag doon?
4-dimethyl, sir.
Alright, very good, no? Kasi dalawang methyl ang nag-connect doon, you need to also count twice the number of which carbon number they are connected. In this case, they are both connected to carbon number 4. So, ang susulat mo doon, 4, 4-dimethyl. And what again is the name of this one, which is the same as here? 4,4-dimethyl. Kulang. Kasi naka-cycle to eh. So, we have 4,4-dimethyl. Cyclo. Continue.
Cyclohexylamine.
Alright, very good. No, we have now what you call your 4,4-dimethyl cyclohexanamine. Right? Or dito yung pangalan natin. Right? So, ganito lang, no? Kasi twice silang nag-connect doon sa carbon 4, twice mo rin isusulat yung number. Alam mong dalawa si methyl, so di. Ito si methyl, alam mo
Sir,
na. Yes.
Sir, N-gayam, L kami nakakability module.
Ay, kasano? L? Ay, nati L dita banda.
J-hexalamine.
Ay, wrong data, hexanamine data. So katan nyo lang ta hexane gamin data, ikatam lang JE ijay dulo, tapos kabilang ti amin, so dapat kat cyclohexanamine. Hexalamine ba? Guray. Sige, let's continue to one. Thank you for pointing that one out kasi I think that is also tawag dito, accepted, pero tingnan natin mamaya. Let's continue na lang muna tapos let's go back to that one. Alright. We have here your an example of an amine. And in this case, no, dapat malaman natin kung ilang carbon meron sa longest chain. In this case, how many carbon do you see here in this chain? Ilang carbon?
4, sir.
4. Pag 4 ang carbon natin, ano yung pangalan niya sa alkane? Nyanaga na to alkane.
Butane, sir.
Very good, butane. Alright? So, butane ang pangalan niyan, and in that case, no, butane na. Meron na tayong butane na apelyido. Alright? Makikita natin na may NH2 dito. Meron tayong NH2 din dito sa unahan. Meron din doon sa dulo. So, the next thing that you're going to do is we're going to count, no? Saan tayo magsisimulang mag-count? From left to right or right to left in terms of the carbon? Saan tayo magsisimulang mag-count?
Left to right, sir.
Left to right. Hindi ba pwedeng right to left?
Yes, din, sir.
Parehas din. Tama yun. So, it doesn't matter kung saan kang magsisimula dito, left to right to left, doesn't matter. But, no, let's get to see if we're going to consider that ito yung carbon number 1, carbon number 2, carbon number 3, carbon 3, carbon 4. At which carbon numbers are the NH2 connected? Anong carbon numbers connected ang NH2?
1 and 4.
Tama, 1 and 4. And since dalawa yung amine natin, ano yung ilalagay natin doon sa unahan ni amine?
Di, sir.
Di. So, ano kayang pangalan nito? Alam natin that this is your butane, this is your amine, at dalawa sila. So, di, and what numbers are they connected? So, try nga, buuin yung pangalan niya. So, start with the number kung saan sila nakakonect. You start there with the number. At what numbers are they connected?
One in four, sir.
Tama, 1 and 4. So, you have now, you write there at the first one, 1, 4. Tapos, ano yung next?
Butane, di,
Butane, tama, butane. Tapos, butane, tatanggalin mo yung E, di ba? Hindi na ata kailangang magtanggal ng E kasi hindi naman kwan. So, you have now your 1, 4, butane. Tapos, ano yung magiging apelido na? Since you get to see that there are 2 amines here.
diamine.
Alright, very good. So, ano yung buong pangalan niya na? Can you say it? Yung buong pangalan niya?
1, 4 butane diamine, sir.
Very good. So, yun yung pangalan niya. So, alam natin that this is butane because it has 4 carbons. Do you know that this is diamine? It's because there are 2 amines connected, and we know that they are connected to carbon number 1 and carbon number 4. That's how easy the naming is for your amines. Let's try another example. Meron na pa. Sorry. Lumabas naman mat yung pangalan niya. Alright? But you get to see that sometimes, no, in this example, bakit kasi ito lumabas yung pangalan niya agad? Alright? So in this example, makikita nyo that again, ang style naman ng amine ng ito is your tertiary amine, wherein your nitrogen is in the middle. Your nitrogen is in the middle. Alright? So alam natin na amine siya kasi may nitrogen. But you get to see here, ano ito? You still remember this alkyl group, CH2CH3?
Ethyl, sir.
Yes, ang pangalan nito, anong pangalan nito again?
Ethyl, sir.
Ethyl. So, ilang ethyl meron tayo dito?
Sir, talo.
Tatlo. So, tama ba yung pangalan na to?
No, sir.
Anong dapat pangalan
Sir,
nito? Ano dapat?
triethylamine.
Alright, very good. So, dapat, ang pangalan nito, triethylamine. Hindi siya methyl. Kasi hindi naman methyl ang nakakonect kay nitrogen. Alright? This should be triethylamine. Alright, let's try another example. Ito naman. We have here your nitrogen again, and this is a tertiary kasi this is an alkyl group. These are 2 alkyl groups here. So, meron tayong nitrogen dyan. So, anong pangalan ng itong alkyl group na ito na CH2, CH2, CH3?
Ethyl, sir.
Ha? Ethyl? This is not ethyl. Kasi 3 carbon na ito eh. Alright.
Propyl, sir.
Tama yung
Propyl,
sinabi
sir.
niyo, no? This is propyl. Ito, makikilala niyo to, CH3. Anong pangalan nito?
Methyl, sir.
Methyl. At ilang methyl meron tayo?
Sir, duwa.
Dalawa.
So, paano natin papangalanan to?
Dimethyl.
Dimethyl,
Propylamine.
Alright, so meron tayong dalawang ethyl, tapos meron tayong propyl dito, kasi meron siyang nitrogen, so amine siya. Pero, again, tama yun, no? Tama yun as a basic naming of that one. However, in this tertiary type of your amine, pag si nitrogen nasa gitna, kailangan yung specify siya. Alright? In this case kasi, si nitrogen yung nasa gitna, wala tayong carbon number, di ba? Wala tayong, anong carbon number siya nakakonect? Hindi, wala tayong ganun. So instead of writing the carbon number, ang gawin natin, isusulat natin si letter N as the number. So mangyayari dito, N, N, ilang methyl meron?
2, sir.
Dalawa, sir.
So ang lalagay nyo yun, N, N, dimethyl, tapos hyphen doon, N, propyl. Again, wala kasi silang carbon number kasi nagpagitna si nitrogen. Tingnan natin yung pangalan. Ay, tama pala, alright. Ganito, yung nangyari sa kanya, no? What happened here is that, no? Yung dalawa nating dimethyl, nakakonect siya sa carbon number. Ito actually sila lahat branches to. And alam natin na yung methyl natin nakakonect sa letter N. So, instead of the usual one that we are connecting that one to a carbon, hindi siya sa carbon nakakonect, sa nitrogen. So instead, we're going to write your N na lang, hindi yung number. Kasi lahat ito branches eh. So, you write your N twice is because your methyl is connected to that one twice. N, N, dimethyl, and we have your propyl na sinabi nyo, tapos lagyan natin ng amine sa dulo. Alright, ganun siya. No? Pag nagpagitna si letter N. The same as this one, hindi mo na kailangang lagyan yung N kasi nga parehas naman silang lahat na nakakonect na ethyl. Ito kasi may mixture ng methyl, may mixture ng propyl. Kaya kailangan mong isulat yung NN, which is your nitrogen here na 2 times silang nag-connect si methyl doon sa nitrogen na yun. You will have more examples here. Ito naman, paano natin malakuan ito? No? We have your N here, at meron tayong connected dito, meron tayong connected dyan, at meron tayong connected dyan. And alam natin na amine ito. So, aapelido ito ng amine. This one, what's the name of this one? Here, CH3.
Methyl, sir.
Itong nasa right naman.
Ethyl, sir.
Ethyl. Ito namang nasa baba.
Cyclo.
Cyclo what? Ilang sides ito meron?
Hexy.
Alright, so cyclohexyl dapat ito. Tapos lalagyan mo ng amine sa dulo. So, paano natin papangalanan to? Let's try to first know the name and try natin ikilatis kung bakit ganun yung pangalan niya. Ito yung sinasabi kong sinulat nila ulit yung letter N. Alright? Ang gagawin natin dito, i-prioritize natin based on the alphabetical number. Alphabetical order. Siyempre, mas mauna si ethyl kaysa kay methyl. And again, they are connected to N. So, ang gagawin doon, uunahin natin si ethyl dito, and it's connected to N. So, N-ethyl. Tapos, si methyl naman, kasi letter M siya yung ko-connect doon, no? Siya yung ko-connect doon sa letter N, so siya yung next after ni ethyl, si methyl. Isusulit natin ulit yung N, kasi doon siya connected. N-ethyl, N-methyl. And lastly, we have now your cyclohexane dito, no? Which is the longest chain actually. Cyclohexane, so, sinulat natin yung cyclohexane dapat ito, tinanggal natin yung E at kinonect natin yung amine. Pag hindi sila magkakaparehas na nagkaka-branch, no? Ito ethyl, ito methyl, yung isa propyl, yung isa ganito, kailangan natin isulat paulit-ulit yung letter N because they are connected to the nitrogen there. Kasi hindi naman carbon yung kinonektahan nila. Alright? So, ganun siya. So, questions. Any questions for this naming? Questions for this naming? You'll have siguro mga other examples there in your module in that case that you can investigate. It's already 10:26 here. We still have the rest of the time until 11 for us to discuss the chapter 12. medyo mahaba ito eh. Questions before I proceed to 12? Alright, so I'll take that one as no question. So let's proceed to chapter 12. Your chapter 12 is related to your health because these ones are the ones that we get to see inside our body. That's the reason why we call this one your biomolecules. It's because the bio means life, which is related to our body. Not only our body, but also at some point even animals' body contain these molecules. And under this chapter 12 is divided into different subtopics pa. If you can still remember, siguro sa chemistry nyo ito, grade 11, grade 12, ano kaya yung 4 na biomolecules na yun? Any idea? Biomolecules. Others will tell that this one are actually what you call your macromolecules. Ano mga ito? Idea? What's the name of this one siguro? Yung 4 na yun. Kinakain natin yung mga 3 dito eh. We're actually taking in the 3 of them as a source of our food. Anybody kung ano yung 4 na biomolecules natin? That's the reason why I say...
Sir,
yes, we continue.
sir, carbohydrates,
Yes, carbohydrates.
protein,
No? Yes, continue. Protein. Ano pa?
nucleic acid, and lipid, sir.
Oh, yeah, we have nucleic acid and lipid, no? Simply, your carbohydrates are actually your sugar. Siyempre, nagta-take in tayo ng sugar. Mahirap naman, walang lasing kinakain natin. When you talk about your amino acids, are your protein. Kaya kumakain tayo ng karne. Alright? Meron tayong lipids or lipids na sinasabi nila, these are actually simply your fats, taba. And your nucleic acid, hindi natin kinakain ito. These are actually found inside your DNA. Right? It's actually a building block of your genes dyan, which is actually part of your DNA. So, there are 3 among the biomolecules that we're actually taking in. Let's continue and start with ano ba pinakauna. Sabi dito, biomolecules, sabi ko na sa living things, no? So, if you're going to break that one out, no, meron tayong 4 dito, carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and your nucleic acids. No? Simply, your carbohydrates are your sugars. Your lipids are actually your fats and your oils. I have your proteins. Ito actually, si protein, the building block of your protein is actually your amino acid. And lastly, your nucleic acid are the ones from your DNA. Ito din, merong nucleic acid si COVID-19 virus, which we'll be talking about later on also. Alright, so nandito na yung 4 na yun, no? So, kumusta yung diet natin? Are you umiiwas ba kayo ng taba? Are you taking in carbohydrates? I believe so. Are you taking in proteins? Siyempre, mahirap naman ako, no? Especially for us, igorots, kanayon adati wat-wat, itag, dagita nga mga kakasta, pinikpikan, those are protein, no? Sino dito umiiwas ng taba? If you can still remember the last time we have what you call your keto diet, no? Yung keto diet doon sa ketones na lesson natin. That is actually a type of your diet na instead of taking in other food, you take in fats. Tapos mag-fasting ka. Kasi, no, pag sa ganun daw, mas madaling mag-breakdown yung fat content ng body mo, ang maiiwan sa body mo, protein and carbohydrates. Pag fats yung kinakain mo. Pero dapat, yung fat na yun, dapat i-fasting mo yun ng ilang oras bago ka ulit kakain. Hindi pwedeng fats ka every 3 hours na kumakain ka. Alright? Anong unahin natin? Carbohydrates. When you talk about your carbohydrates, no, ang combination ng mga elements or atoms or molecules na na-connected sa carbohydrates, no, is a carbon, is a hydrogen, and an oxygen. Carbohydrates, no? Carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, carbohydrates. Carbon, hyd is because you have your hydrogen, and drates is because if you hydrate, you have water, you have your oxygen. Carbohydrates. This is the most abundant one. When you talk about for the green plants, no, for sa mga plants natin, meron tayong sinasabing photosynthesis, no? Green plants actually take in carbon dioxide, no? Na humihingi sila ng carbon dioxide, and at the same time, kailangan natin silang diligan with water. And with that one, no, adding them both together, your CO2 and your water, it will now yield what you call your C6H12O6. Alam niyo ba ito? You still remember? Ano itong C6H12O6? Ito yung pinaka-simple sugar na makukuha natin sa plants. This is actually also the source of food of the plants. Because plants can create their own food and they can feed themselves. For us humans, hindi tayo pwedeng mag-create ng own food natin. Kailangan kumuha tayo ng ibang sources ng food natin. Still remember what is C6H12O6? Ano yan?
Photosynthesis ba, sir?
The process is photosynthesis, but
Ay,
this is a certain type of sugar na. Itong C6H12O6. Anong na specific name ng sugar na ito? Ito yung source ng pagkain ng mga plants. A certain sugar. Ito din yung sinasabi nila,
galactose.
Galactose? No, it's not galactose. Ano kaya?
Glucose.
Yes, no, this is what you call your glucose. Glucose, ito yung source ng food ng plants natin. At some point, what we get from the plant is actually pag we take in plant-based ones, this is the type of sugar that we also take in from there. At some point, we also need glucose. Sabi nga nila, pag hindi ka na nakakapag-isip, hindi ka na nakakapaggalaw dahil gutom ka na, it's because you have low glucose in your blood. So what do you need? No? Anong ginagawa ng ibang atleta? They eat chocolates. It's because chocolate is actually a sugar and it will give sugar in your blood and be able to keep you from moving and moving. It's because then again, no, kailangan ito ng body natin. Pero ano namang effect pag nagsobrahan ka ng sugar sa body mo? Ano yung sakit na makukuha natin doon?
Diabetes, sir.
Ay, diabetes, no? Alam natin din yan na meron tayong siguro mga relatives na merong mga diabetic na mga relatives. Still remember kung ano yung sinasaksak sa kanila para bumaba naman yung glucose level ng blood nila? Yung anti-glucose.
Insulin, sir.
Tama, insulin. Insulin naman yung nag-aantay sa glucose na yun para bumaba yung blood sugar level. Alright, so this is quite interesting in terms of carbohydrates. Sa carbohydrates naman, meron tayong different types of carbohydrates in terms of their structure. Meron tayong sinasabi na monosaccharide. Mono meaning isa lang, isang sugar. Disaccharide is again because they are actually a combination of two sugars. Oligosaccharide, this is because they are combination of 6 to 8. And if it's more than 8, it's what you call now your polysaccharide. No? Examples of your monosaccharide or one sugar na structure are your glucose, your fructose, and your galactose. Daanan natin si glucose. Si fructose, saan natin pwedeng makuha ito? This is a type of sugar also. Saan to usually nakukuha? Fructose naman. Anybody has an idea?
Fruits ba, sir?
Tama, no? This is actually what you call your fruit sugar. Ano yung nagpapatamis sa isang prutas? It's because it's fructose. It has what you call your fruit sugar. No? Yan, tama yon, fructose. Galactose naman, saan ito galing? Saan kaya galing yung galactose? Anong type of sugar to na saan ito galing? Anybody? Any idea? Kung saan galing naman tong galactose na ito? Isang pampatamis. This is also isang pampatamis. Sweetener. Pero ito sila mga natural to na sweetener. Galactose. Yung galactose, ang nakukuha natin dito is actually nakukuha natin to sa gatas, sa milk. That's the reason why for breastfeeding mothers, napansin nyo, maybe from your relatives, na, oy, bakit nilalanggam yung mga breast milk na pag nilalagay mo, if you're storing that one, is because they contain galactose. That is what you call your milk sugar also naman. So you have your glucose, is actually plant sugar, fruit sugar, and your milk sugar. If you're going to combine your glucose and your fructose, it becomes what you call your sucrose. Kaya sinasabi natin, dalawang sugar body na itong disaccharide because your sucrose is a combination of your fructose and your glucose. I think your lactose is actually a combination of your fructose and your galactose. It becomes lactose. Parang mga ganong mga bagay. Tapos, pag more than many combinations na sila lahat dito, no, they become what you call now your starch. Corn starch, rice starch, oat starch, no? Ito yung mga complex sugar na. Meron tayong sinasabing glycogen, and meron din tayong sinasabi natin yung mga certain fibers na we get from food that we eat. Alright? So, these are carbohydrates. So, nandiyan, dito na yun na-mention kong mga explanation. Glucose, fructose, galactose. Yan, nasa yogurt, no? Nasa milk. Milk-based na mga sugar ito. Fructose naman, yan, combination of this one and that one. And then dito na, I'll be sending this one to you as your copy also. Oligosaccharide, 3 to 6 units of monosaccharide is your oligosaccharide. Example would be your raffinose. Dextrose, raffinose, ito, mga sugar yan sila. Kaya yung actually yung sinasaksak sa atin nun as dextrose or what you call your IV fluid, it's actually a sugar and water. Nilalagay na diretso dyan sa vein natin para hindi ma-dehydrate yung vein natin or yung blood natin. Right. So, yun. No? Tapos, the complicated ones are your cellulose. These are actually example of your fiber. And starch, nakukuha natin, cornstarch, yung rice. Alam niyo yung pag naghugas kayo ng rice, before you're going to cook that one, syempre, hugasan mo yung rice. The whitish, yung nagpapaputi ng rice is actually yung starch. Yun, so that's actually your starch, which is actually a sugar. Kaya pag gumagawa tayo ng mga, what do you call this one? Gumagawa tayo ng mga dikot, ganun, no? Diba? We need those types of mga rice na maraming starch content. Kasi the more starch it has, the sweeter it is, and the more sticky it is. Kaya yun yung mga dikit na mga ginagamit sa rice has more starch content. Pero hindi maganda yung too much starch din pag gumawa ka ng fried rice. Ayaw mo na pag nag-fried rice ka, magkakadikit-dikit yung rice. Potatoes contain starch also at the same time. Alright? Glycogen naman, ito yung meron sa body natin. No? Whenever you take in your glucose, pag hindi ito ginamit, it will be stored as glycogen muna. Until such time na kailangan siyang gamitin ulit ng body, then they become again, that glycogen will be converted to glucose and will be taken in by your cells. Kaya, no, pag si insulin ang ginagamit para nagpapababa ng sugar content sa body mo, yun yung ini-inject sa mga taong diabetic kasi mataas yung blood sugar level nila at kailangan natin ibaba, insulin. Pero meron din tayong mga tao na low blood sugar level, mababa yung sugar nila, hinihimatay na sila, kailangang injekan ng glycogen. Alright? Insulin and glycogen has what you call your different types of their effect. Si glycogen nagpapataas ng low blood sugar, si insulin nagpapababa ng high blood sugar. Alright? Yun yung ginagamit natin. So, for example, no, is it okay for you to take in lots of sugar or lots of carbohydrates tapos hindi ka nag-exercise? Aside from getting diabetic, ano pa kaya ang pwedeng mangyari sa'yo pag marami kang tinake in na carbohydrates? Anybody has an idea? Yung mga mahilig sa donut, mahilig sa chocolate, mahilig sa mga matatamis tapos hindi nag-exercise, anong nangyayari sa kanila? Aside from getting diabetes, anong nangyayari sa kanila? Tumataba. Tama yun. It's because, no, if you take in many carbohydrates and you don't burn them out because of you're not exercising, the tendency of those glucose, they will be converted into fat. Yun yung tendency na hindi alam ng tao na kain ka carbohydrate naman ang tinikuhan, hindi naman fats, pero bakit ako tumataba? It's because if you're taking lots of carbohydrates and you're not burning it out through exercise, then those glucose will be converted into fats. Kaya tumataba yung tao. Now, let's proceed now to the second macromolecule or biomolecule, which is your fats. Nakikita natin ito sa mga body natin, yung taba natin, depende kung ganong ilang layers yan. But meron tayong mga fats. Kailangan natin ng fat sa body. It's because the fat is actually a thermo-regulating part of our body. Sila yung nagpapalamig or nagpapainit sa atin. Napansin nyo, yung mga matataba, hindi sila madaling lamigin. Because the fat is actually the one that makes them like a jacket. Para silang nagiging jacket sa body nila. Yung taba. Pero ang tendency din ng mataba, pag mainit na mainit, makita nyong pawis na pawis sila. Yung mga payat naman, wala sila masyadong fat content, kunting lamig, kunting ulan lang at medyo madali silang lamigin. Ito yung mga effect ng lipids or fats in our body. They are actually segmented parts. Meron tayong sinasabing mga triglycerides. No? And we have what you call your good fat and your bad fat. Specifically, we call them your cholesterol. Meron tayong good cholesterol, meron tayong bad cholesterol. Which one is the good and which is one is the bad? Again, it's related to your cholesterol. Saan kaya mas healthy? Saturated fat or unsaturated fat? What do you think? And choose one. Pati ako nakalimutan ko ah. What do you think is the more healthy one? Saturated, unsaturated? Which one is the good cholesterol?
Unsaturated fat, sir.
Or unsaturated fat. Let's try to see, no? If you're going to look at here, alright, tama. If you're going to look at it here, no? Your fat is actually dalawang types na saan sila galing. Depende kung saan sila galing, they can be your unsaturated and saturated fat. Yung mga unsaturated fat kasi, galing sila sa mga plants, na mga taba ng plants. Your avocado has fats, may taba yan. Your coconut milk has fats. Ano pa bang mga matatabang mga prutas or mga matatabang mga plants na meron silang fat content? But the point is that fats that are actually coming or oils that are coming out from plant-based are actually what you call your good cholesterol or your unsaturated fat or your vegetable oil, unsaturated sila. The ones that are coming from animals, taba ng baka, taba ng baboy, taba ng chicken oil or pork oil or beef oil or any oil that you get from animals, these are what you call your mga saturated fat. And they are what you call your bad cholesterol. Except for the oil that we get for the fish, no? Pag makuha natin yung fish oil, this is actually what you call your omega-6, which is good for the heart. Pero yung those ones coming from yung sa baboy, ng oil ng baboy or oil ng chicken skin, oil ng beef, these are actually what you call your mga saturated fat, and they can cause they can clog your arteries and this can cause your heart attack. However, the ones that you get from the na plant-based na mga oil are actually the good cholesterol. But please, again, these are still fat. And again, this should be limited lang naman sa body. Huwag masyadong abusuhin ito. No? This will also, sabihin nyo, ay, good fat pala ito, or good cholesterol pala ito. Pero mag-take ako ng marami. Hindi ganun Hindi ganun yung idea niya. Alright? Another fat is what you call, no, aside from your triglyceride, is your steroids. Narinig nyo ba to? Steroids. Students, where have you heard of this word, steroids? Anybody? Ito yung mga nakikita natin sa sinasabi nila mga performance enhancing drugs. No, yung PED na sinasabi nila. They say that boxers whenever they go before they go to the ring, they inject themselves with steroids. It's because then again, nag-enhance ito ng ability nila. Runners in the Olympics, no, meron tayong mga sinasabi nilang mga doping na sinasabi nila because this person has taken in performance enhancing drugs, they contain steroids. If you want to have yung mga bato-bato na mga muscle, then you take in steroids through injection. Ito yung mga ginagawa ng mga bodybuilders. But the point is that the side effects of the steroids is actually not good. The ones that are being taken in by those bodybuilders are actually steroids for horses. Para po sa mga kabayo yun. Hindi po para sa tao. Pero yun na nga ginagawa nila, sinasaksak nila sa tao kasi then again, meron siyang effect na nagpapalaki ng muscle. Parehas lang din ng ivermectin na sinasabi nila na nagpapagaling ng COVID-19 pero alam natin na yun is pampapurga ng mga animals, specifically horses. Those are actually for animals. Pero some others are trying to advertise that ivermectin is actually can prevent you from or nagpapagaling ng mga taong merong COVID-19. But the real effect or the primary effect for that one is actually pampapurga ng mga animal, specifically yung kabayo natin. So we have two types of your lipids. You have your triglycerides and your steroids. The steroids that we are actually having in our body, which is actually meron tayong steroid dyan coming from your adrenal glands. But some others are taking that one, no, from other sources outside from the body and injecting themselves ibang source naman ng steroids na yan. Alright? So, meron tayong steroids. Actually, steroids din yung sex hormones natin. Alright? Kaya naglalaki yung muscle mo pag puberty hits, no? You get to become taller, you have a wider shoulders, you have your deeper voices because of sex hormones are also considered as your steroids. Right? Let's go now to the second to the last, which you call your nucleic acid. Yung nucleic acid mo is actually coming from your RNA and your DNA. No? Ang difference nila ito, your DNA is actually your deoxyribonucleic acid. Is composed of two helix, no? Naghihelix na shape dito, dalawang parang nagri-ribbon-ribbon. DNA yan. Pag isa lang, yung ribbon niya, this is what you call your ribonucleic acid. But the point is that it has your nucleic acid there. And they are related to our DNA, which is the tawag natin, ito yung tinatawag nating building, the blueprint of our genes. No? Kung bakit ganun yung mukha mo is because you are 50-50% coming from your father and your mother, you took out the gene from them. Na-combine ka, naging hybrid ka ng father and your mother. 50-50% yan. Alright? And dahil dyan, no, is because of your DNA na sinasabi natin. Alright? And your DNA contains what you call your nucleic acid. Yung Na dyan is nucleic acid. And your DNA is the one that is actually telling your cells to do this certain type of protein. Paano ba tayo nabuo? No? Paano ba tayo nabuo coming from our parents? We are actually only a combination of your egg cell and your sperm cell. And with that one, paano tayo nagkaroon ng certain protein na, dito yung protein maging heart muscle. Itong protein na to maging stomach muscle. Itong protein na to maging skin mo. Itong protein na to maging hair mo. Itong protein na to maging mata mo. Or your bones or something like that. Ito yung DNA nagdidictate para gumawa ng certain type of protein in your body. Your heart muscle is different from your brain. Kaya hindi po tayo pwedeng mag-transplant ng yung kukunin ka ng konti dito tapos ita-transfer ka doon. Though at some point, yes, pwede yun. Pero specific types of organs have different sets of your cells. Heart muscles is different from your skin cells. Your stomach cells are actually different from your hair cells. That's the reason why, sinong nagdidikta nun? It's actually your DNA. Oh, itong egg cell and combination ng egg cell and sperm cell. Oh, ito dapat ikaw magde-develop yung brain doon. So merong nagdikta doon is actually your DNA. No? RNA is actually found in viruses. And this one, no, for viruses, halos lahat ng virus merong RNA sa kanila. No? And related to that one is what you call your common now. No, we have your COVID-19. And with that RNA, pag alam natin kung ano yung RNA ni COVID-19, ano yung combination niya dyan na nucleic acid, this is the basis for us to be able to make vaccines. And at some point ngayon, nalaman na natin kung ano yung sequence ng RNA ni COVID-19, kaya meron na tayong mga vaccines na pwedeng promotekta sa atin. How does a vaccine work? Ano ba? Paano ba gumagana si vaccine? For the vaccine like your polio, for your other types of vaccine, no? Ito yung mga tinatawag natin yung mga permanent vaccine na sinasaksak yan sa baby pa lang. No? Ang ginagawa dyan, kumukuha tayo ng RNA nung virus na yon. It's a weakened virus or weak na virus. Hindi siya malakas na virus. Weak siya. Ilalagay yan doon, no? I-inject yan doon sa body mo. And because that thing is a foreign type, your body has an immune system that will fight off any foreign bodies in your body. And if first time nilang maka-encounter nung foreign body na yon, let's say for example polio, hindi pa sila ready kasi hindi pa sila nakakagawa ng antibodies. But that first time na nag-meet sila doon, no? Hindi pa sila ganun ka-ready. Pero siguro, your immune system is very strong that they can fight off that foreign body or that virus. While, no, at that point na nakilala na nila na nandyan na si polio, gagawa na sila ng army of antibodies that next time if a polio vaccine comes into your body, ready na yung mga soldiers na pumatay ng polio vaccine. It's the same idea with COVID-19. No? What we're injecting inside our body is actually the RNA sequence of the COVID-19. Hindi siya mismo yung virus, yung RNA lang. Para, pag nakita nun ng ating body, uy, parang RNA ito, parang weird ito, parang foreign. As soon as nakita sila, gagawa agad ng antibody yung body natin. The next time na talagang yung mismong COVID-19 virus yung papasok sa body mo, ready na yung antibodies na magpa-fight off sa kanila. That's actually how your vaccines work, no? As a nurse also before, at the same time a teacher right now, yan yung napag-aralan namin when I was still having my course also in nursing. So ganun yung effect ng kwa natin. So once again, no, I'm not mandating you to go for a vaccine, but I'm encouraging you that vaccines actually work. Alright? And lastly, no, ito yung sinasabi ko. And lastly, what we have is your protein. Protein are actually coming from your muscles. No? So, karne. Ang karne is actually made up of protein. Pero, at some point, makita natin, merong mga bata na napupuntahan natin sa mga far-flung areas wherein, no, wala silang mga livestock. So, mostly, kinakain nila kamote, which is actually carbohydrates, or plant-based. To the point na wala silang protein content in their body. And meron tayong makikitang mga ganito. Are you seeing this one? Are you seeing this one here? This one on the left is a different disorder from the right. Any idea kung alam nyo itong disorder? Which is what you call your protein deficiency. Itong mga batang ito, hindi kumain ng karne for the longest time. Siguro ang kinakain nito, kamote lang, tubig, rice, which is again another carbohydrate. Do you have any idea of this type of disorders kung saan kulang ka ng protein? Anybody? Still have 6 more minutes? Ito yung mga nangyayari sa Africa. Kawawa naman. Ito kasi malaki tiyan niya. Ito kasi wala talaga. This is really very thin. Kita mo yung braso niya, walang braso. Tapos makikita mo yung bone socket dito nakakonect doon sa clavicle na. Alright? This is what you call your kwashiorkor here on the one, on your left, and this is marasmus on the right. This kwashiorkor is actually a lesser deficiency compared to your marasmus. Ito kasi si marasmus is what you call your protein wasting. Talagang lahat ng protein ng body niya wala. Ang nangyari dito puro na lang yung skin. At may konting siguro fat content pero wala tong protein. Walang muscle, oh. So anong mangyayari dito pag walang muscle? Hindi to makakapaglakad. Baka mamaya hindi niya kayang i-support yung skeleton niya, hindi makakapagtayo. Sa kwashiorkor naman, merong konti na protein. But ito yung point kung saan yung kinakain nila, carbohydrate lang. Kamote, gabi or something like that, yung mga root crops. Mais or ganito, rice. Kaya malaki lang yung tiyan, pero kulang pa rin ng protein yung body nila. May konting protein yan, pero hindi ganun asing grabe ng parehas ng tumarasmus. Right? Have your two types of your protein. We have your fibrous and your globular. Meron kasi yung medyo parang fiber siya, na straight na mga strings. Meron din tayong globular na para sila mga na coiled na mga protein. Ito yung nakikita nating protein sa ating blood. No? Hemoglobin is actually a protein inside your blood. No? Meron din tayong sinasabing collagen. This is a fibrous protein. Ito po yung, sa mga babae, ito yung parang sinasabi nilang nilalagay sa lotion na collagen, which is actually the one that is preventing you from having wrinkles. Because, no, the older you get, your protein content decreases. To the point that the older you get, kumukonti na po yung collagen natin sa body natin, kaya nagkaka-wrinkles ka. Kaya nagkaka-wrinkles yung mga matatanda. It's because konti na lang yung collagen nila. Kaya meron tayong mga artista na, bakit at around 40, 50, nagmumukha silang 20s? is because they still have lots of collagen na hindi sila nagkaka-wrinkles. Then again, these are still related to your protein. So, ito na yung last natin. And we still have 4 more minutes left. So, questions before we get to finally end with our discussion today. So, it will be decided na it's already Wednesday. Anybody? Questions? Alright, so yung activity nyo is the one that is being left for your 11 and 12. Yun yung answerin nyo. Will be until siguro Friday by next week. So, hindi siya Wednesday, Friday siya. Yun yung deadline natin for activities chapters 11 and 12 until Friday. Pero yung exam natin sa Wednesday, that will be earlier. So, questions before we get to go out and have this last discussion kasi wala nang mangyayaring discussion next time. Anybody? Alright, wala na siguro discussion pero I'd like to take this opportunity for me to be able to at least at some point know you. Those ones that are actually faithful in coming in and joining this class. Those ones that are continually interacting, ituloy nyo lang yan until the third batch. However, for these others, no, I hope that we get to have some more interactions. Kasi then again, no, it's only interaction that you'll be able to have this fingerprint or this mark in your mind instead of just listening and not and after an hour after wala na kayong maaalala. And then again, interaction is really very important, especially in this type of our setup. So once again, I'd like to thank you for being able to be there from the start of the day until the end of the day. May you continue to strive hard for your endeavors that until such day that you'll be graduating and become law enforcers in the future. All right. So I wish you well. I wish you to be able to to reach for your goals with flying on colors and to be able to at least be assets, no, of the Republic of the Philippines. Without further much ado, if there are no questions, then I will be ending this one in a while. So thank you very much once again. I think wala naman na siguro magsasalita and good morning. So it's 10:59 in the morning.